Abby, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you speak again, Abby?
Hello, can you hear me?
For some reason, we're not picking you up.
Oh, really? Wait. Hello? Can you hear me now? Can you
Try
hear
again,
me?
Abby?
Hello? Hello?
Hmm.
Can you hear me now? Jeez. Hello?
We're thinking it's something on our end, Abby. Mm, uh, yeah. No reason to leave yet. We think it's on our end.
Ask her to talk again, please.
Talk again, please. Abby?
Hello, can you hear me?
Mm, interesting.
What about that one there that you're on, Robbie? No, we have her speaking in.
Yeah, just keep just talking, Abby, while we get through this. Oh, she left. Okay.
Vera.
Veto, could you potentially speak into the mic real quick? Oh, there's Abby.
Hi, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
What are we on?
Awesome.
Abby, just a small introduction before we begin.
Um, Hi everyone. My name is Abby. I'm the new member of the S&A committee. I'm not really sure what else to say.
No, that's all good. Thank you, Abby. Alrighty. Well, it is 3:02, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Let me get the agenda real quick. One second. Awesome. Thank you so much. Alrighty. I call this. Hmm? Oh, recording? Transcript?
Oh, yeah. So we're going to try AI to transcribe our meetings, and then I'm going to use AI again to put it into meeting minutes. Woo! For AI. So this is our first test. So that means everybody currently for this meeting will have to speak into a microphone, committee as well, questions to the audience. But starting winter quarter, we'll use the ACW mic system, and then everybody will have their own mic, which should again feed into AI.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, I call this meeting to order at 3:04 p.m. Alrighty. Going into the call to order. Chair Alex Matheson is here. Uh, Vice Chair Ba Simatwe? Simatau. Damn it. Simatau. There we go. Simatawi. I did. I know. Yeah. Ba Simatawi. Present. Um, Parliamentarian Rachel Haley. Uh, Alex Cordone. Austin Baird. Abby Tutuko.
Here, present.
Alrighty. And Eros Spangenberg is not present. Alrighty. Moving on to approval of the agenda. It has been sent over to all of you via email. Please read through that, and then once you are done, I'll have a motion on the floor.
Or review it right here on the screen.
That as well. All right, Alexander Cordone motions. Seconded by Ba. Alrighty, moving on to approval of the minutes. Oh, sorry. Long week, people. Are there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All right. Motion passes unanimously. Now we're moving on to the approval of the minutes. Please look it over. You have a motion? Motion seconded by Cordone. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, motion passes unanimously again. Moving on to reports, none from the chair, and I will pass it on to our advisors.
I have nothing to report.
I will just provide an update to your available supplemental funding budget, which is 69,917.10 is what's remaining at this point. And then just a reminder, as we go through with salary savings every month, there's potentially additional savings that will be swept into the supplemental budget. But that's only going to happen once a month once the budget reports are updated. So probably looking at like around week 3 of the month before you'll see like a significant change in the supplemental budget. Potentially. There could also not be a change. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Alrighty. Well, with no further reports. Oh, reports from ASCWU.
Yeah, traditionally the ASCW rep didn't sit as the
Oh.
chair, so they would update anything ASCW related.
I guess I do have an update
Yeah.
for ASCWU. Due to the technical malfunction from our presentation, it was pretty hard to follow what the exact request for student government was. So I have sent a follow-up email describing exactly what the requests are to Robbie.
It was included in the information that was sent to you all yesterday.
Awesome. And it was, yeah, so you can find it there as well. Thank you for your patience. Alrighty. There's been no communications received, so we'll move on to the first call to public comment.
I would like to say I've attended a couple of these meetings now, and you guys are doing great work. As a student, I'm a little uncomfortable with the ASCWU getting a bunch of clothes and uniforms and pad folios and things like that when it could be put towards like actually helping the students rather than just making them look nice. And so I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess I have two things of public comment. One, the good news is most of the updated of what has been requested includes the separation of salaries and yeah.
I'm not sure you should respond to public comment.
Okay, I shouldn't respond to it.
I don't
Okay.
believe the committee should respond
Okay.
to public comment.
Sorry.
Nope,
weird
it's
roles
okay.
Here.
It's okay.
Okay. Well. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, it's just a thank you for your comment.
Thank you for your comment. Two, this goes out to everybody in the room who is here to observe. As observers of the S&A committee, I would politely remind that any comment that should be made from your department should come when directly asked of a member of the S&A committee. So I would really appreciate if we can all respect that, and if there are questions, we will make sure to point out and ask. And also, apologies for the confusion just now. We are going to go forward with the meeting, and I'm very excited for today's meeting. All right, let's go on. Yes?
This is just to the S&A committee itself real quick. First of all, thank you again for having me be a part of the team. Just to remind y'all, I will be gone for the next, just like once a month for the next quarter. I'll be here for most of the meetings, but I still wanted to just make that clear that my absence will be on hopefully just expected, just with my RA duties. I'm still very committed to this, and I'm still keeping up with all the information. Just wanted to remind you in case there is any confusion about my absence in the next coming quarter. Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on. We have no new business, and we'll be going back to the old business of the S&A supplemental requests made by previous week's requesters. Our first round of discussion will be supplemental request 2608 of the Student Union Operations or CIRC team. Could either of the advisors give a quick rundown of the request itself?
Yeah, I was just going to find it real quick. The computer is outsmarting me today. Okay. Okay, so this is the request that came through for supplemental funding for the CIRC lighting project, 2608. So the amount is right here. And also are the investments of what the investments will go towards, right over here. Would you all like to see the actual detailed supplemental request? Okay. This is really showing my age, aren't I? I know, I'm offending some people in the room.
So while Robbie's getting that up, I just want to remind you guys about the difference, excuse me, between a capital expenditure and just a supplemental funding request. So in this case, because we're talking about something that's attached to the building, it meets the requirements for a capital expense. This would be one that would be recommended out of the reserves that S&A has, not out of the $69,000 budget that I mentioned. And this would be since it's over 25,000, this one needs to be actually approved by the Board of Trustees. So the path for this one's a little bit different. It would be, if it came out of this committee as a recommendation, it would go to Joel, up to the Board of Trustees. And so that meeting isn't going to be until February. And then we would need to get that approval to spend out of the reserve. So this one is a little bit different because of the amount, the dollar amount. So just kind of putting that out there. And if you have any questions about that, we're happy to discuss it.
I keep forgetting about the microphone. Do we know the number of the reserves that we currently have for the S&A committee?
I think it's about $4.5 million.
Yeah. And just to go over it again, because this is over the capital expense threshold, this means it is eligible to be taken out of reserves as, so it's not like we can take everything out of reserves, but this has met the minimum that we need to take out of that 4 million potentially.
And just to kind of add on to that, because we have the requirement to make sure we maintain the debt service coverage, any capital expenses don't count against that because they're not an operating expense at that point. They become an asset. So if we were spending on, just regular expenses that would impact our debt service coverage, but this is sort of a separate, more of a special expense.
Well, I open up discussion for the floor. Cordon?
Can I see all the details included?
Of the request?
Yeah.
I'm going to have you ask it in there just for the AI, so for our robot.
Can I see all the details included?
Do you want, so Cherie provided two things. I can show you the presentation, which I just had open, or the request. What's the presentation? Sorry.
Yeah, that one.
This one?
Yes, thank you. Can I see the one before that? I think I had after then. Yes, perfect.
Yeah, Cherie is here. So she's did the presentation last year. She's also the director of the student union. So if you have specific questions, she would be happy to answer those, I'm sure.
My question is,
You go ahead.
all right. What's the livelihood of this? Like those, for example, like lights run out after a certain amount of time. Like your car lights, they run out after X amount of time, right? What's the longevity of this project, I guess?
The longevity of the new project, if the new project was done. I would say the longevity is at least 20 years. The current system that we've had has made it its lifespan, which has been 20 years. So I would say about the same.
And what percentage of the lights that do exist in this building for this purpose are being replaced with this money, or is this replacing all of them?
Yes, it's replacing all of the can lights that are in the main part of the theater. And then it's also replacing the lighting that's on the staging that you see there as well.
Would you happen to have a rough estimate of how many of your lights have failed? Percentage based, even if it was rough.
I would say maybe 20% right now.
Okay.
And as they fail, we don't have a way of replacing them at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty. Well, with all this discussion, I can open up the floor for a motion. Abby has a question? Oh, Abby, go ahead. Lights are being...
I just wanted to confirm that the lights are being replaced instead of fixed because I think if I remember correctly, were they too old and it's hard to find the parts to fix them?
Yes, so the ballasts are going out, and we can't find the ballasts to fix them anymore. They don't make them anymore.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I figured I should probably discuss this since when it comes to the actual motion, I'm gonna make a slightly different one for this. 80% of the lights are about 80% of the lights are working right now, and I'm relieved to hear that this can come out of the $4.5 million pot. But if we can still, it still feels like when I showed up here, we were told that some of our responsibility is to make sure that we don't spend all of the money that we're asked for. So in an attempt to find a balance that will give them the opportunity to replace their lights, the ones that definitely need to be replaced, I'm going to suggest my personal viewpoint is that we fund about 80% of this for a total of $213,236. That will allow them to replace their lights. They should have about 20% of the lights total should still be old, but it sounds like only 20% of the lights are failing. Am I incorrect?
Yes, about 20% of the lights are failing.
So that would mean that we get, I'm really bad at doing math on the spot, but I'm pretty sure that that's something like 60% is new lights, and then the last 20, oh no, 80, that gives us 80% for new lights, and then they can take some of the old ones and keep those. Yes?
From my understanding, we are replacing the entire light system, correct?
Yes, correct. So it's the whole panel system, the whole lighting control system is going to be upgraded, and so all the lights within the theater would be upgraded to that LED lighting system.
And then a follow-up question, would you be able to access your reserves in this scenario?
I can access my reserves, and I do have some reserves. The reason I'm coming to S&A for the supplemental request is because currently I'm using some of my reserves for my operating budget this year because student enrollment is down to just operate the facility. So we're eating up about a little over $300,000 this year into my reserves to operate the facility.
Okay, cool. Did you want to? No, those are good. Okay, perfect.
That actually changes my interpretation of this system, because I was thinking about this as lights that can just be swapped out. We can scrap my suggestion.
How long will it take to be fixed or replaced, I guess?
I think once we have the funding secured, I think the bid said it would take about 2 weeks.
Is there any further discussion? All right, can I get a motion on the floor?
I'm going to motion to approve the full amount.
I second.
Okay, so motion by Ba and seconded by Rachel. All righty. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Yep. All righty.
I want to remind everybody real quickly that this is our recommendation, and just with all base funding recommendations, it goes to Joel as the CFO, and he will take it to the Board of Trustees. So Sheree and them will not know until the Board of Trustees make the approval because of the amount. So that'll be probably the end of February is usually when they have their next Board of Trustees meeting.
And just to clarify for the record, the full amount was $266,545.
All righty. Well, moving on to our next new business or old business item, the supplemental request 2609 for the ECLC.
Is the representative for, oh, perfect, hi. Could you explain what the custodial fee is, please? Yeah, sorry.
What the 55,000 is?
Yes, sorry. So we have the construction component part of your budget, and then we had a custodial, where'd it go? Construction, sorry.
For
Construction.
for facilities for their wage,
Okay,
what it's billed at.
okay, great, thank you.
Grab my glasses.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I might have asked this last week,
Their
but
labor and wages for facilities cleanup.
if I'm not mistaken, last week y'all said y'all have other potential sources of funding for this?
No.
No, not this one. Okay. Thank you.
Can I see the presentation super quickly, please? Thank you.
So this new amount is for the classrooms only. Remove all the hallways and remove the reception area. So the new amount is 35,000. The new amount, instead of 55,000, we broke it down to just the classrooms only. So 35,000 for blue room, yellow room, and red room. The only, they had asked for that, so I'd asked Joanne to have the contractor run the numbers for that.
So just to clarify, you're asking for the full amount, but this, if that wasn't approved, this would be an alternative?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, what was it? Oh, yes. This is a clarifying, not for you, thank you. Would this one count as a capital? Okay.
No. No AI. The capital threshold is typically around over $100,000 is kind of, there's quite a bit of criteria, but that 100,000 is sort of one of the, when you agree, that's kind of one of the like litmus tests for the capital expense. It has to hit that threshold. And then there's other things as well, but that's a great question.
I say, unfortunately, flooring is carved out as not capital, even when the cost is higher, because it doesn't extend the useful life of the building. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the priority that I had was definitely the classrooms, and if we had more in our supplemental funding amount, I would be inclined to give the entire amount. Since we don't, unfortunately, have as much as I would like us to, I believe that the 35,000 is doable for us.
Just considering the classrooms, they get revamped. How long will that be? What's the longevity of that?
Of the new flooring,
Yeah.
for the vinyl plank flooring, it would be another 30 years.
All right, back to, we're going to have a bit of a debate for this one. I'm sorry. It breaks my heart to have to fight against this one, but I don't think that we can tank. My recommendation for this one is going to be to vote. I'm personally against approving either of these requests because it'll take almost half of what we have.
There has been conversations between the UCLC and I believe our advisors of a potential alternatives considering the scale of our supplemental fund.
So that was actually taking place between us and the CFO. So Michelle and Shuri and any of the other requesters were not included in that conversation, but the alternative still exists. So do you want to do the alternative? Or would you like me to? Okay, so the alternative came about when asked about these requests about suggesting the committee could suggest what's called a base funding adjustment. So what Michelle could do is she could ask for a one-year base funding adjustment for fiscal year 27 and include her flooring amount, which means she would come back and adjust her ask for you all next quarter and include the amount to cover the flooring, and then you as a committee would decide whether you wanted to fund it that way out of base funding versus out of your supplemental. Did I get that right?
Yes, and after talking to Joel, the way, kind of the difference with that would be like you'll have an amount that we think will be your budget to allocate for the next 3 years. And it would be sort of like, you're going to allocate the entire amount, and then you would make a decision of like, year one, let's say you're going to spend into reserves for year one, kind of an intentional spending into reserves, which was something that was kind of mentioned at the Board of Trustees meeting last spring. So that's an option that you all have as well, if you want to kind of consider that for next year. Wait, I'm going to add one more thing. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed.
Well, if I like the sound of that alternative, I don't think that I can word the proposal specifically that way. I don't remember what the details are. Would it be we proposed the specific motion?
The specific motion would be to deny this supplemental request.
Okay.
The recommendation would be to say, come back for a base funding request.
Okay, but we can add the recommendation at the end of.
After the motion, we can.
All right. Well, then I will wait for time.
Hi, sorry. You mentioned earlier that the project is expected to take 30 years, correct?
The life of the flooring would be 30 years. That's not the
Oh,
project.
The
I
scope of the work would be 3
apologize.
weeks. Purchase, yeah, it would be done in 3 weeks, the scope of the work.
Okay, I apologize. I must have misunderstood.
When I think, I'm very expressive. I also agree with Ba that it would be wise to table this for a base funding request, because, like, you made a good point of this request is half of our budget for supplemental. I would hate to have to postpone the flooring, but that is probably the smartest option for the committee, in my opinion.
For clarification, the actual motion itself would be to deny this for supplemental, not table. Just as a clarification. Do I have any motions on the floor?
Motion to deny the ECLC funding supplemental request as written, with a recommendation that they come back and include it in their base funding request for fiscal year 2027.
Second that.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Vote is unanimous. ECLC denied supplemental funding with a recommendation to come back for base funding for this fiscal year.
Yep. Do you guys want to vote to extend that deadline for them?
Oh, do we also want to vote to potentially extend the deadline for them to submit those documents?
So as a point of clarification, Michelle already submitted hers, even though they're not due till Monday. So then I would communicate with her after the meeting and give her an allotted time that you all decide on to allow her to redo her request and send back.
In that case, I would like to propose a motion to extend the time allotted to ECLC to submit that request by 30 days. Is that not long enough? 5 days.
So you can say motion rescinded to that. Yeah.
Motion rescinded. I'm going to do it again.
Okay.
I propose a motion to extend the amount of time allotted to ECLC to resubmit their appropriate paperwork by 5 days.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Alrighty. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Alrighty. So that is ECLC rejected for supplemental, recommended to come back for the base funding request, and extended their deadlines by 3 days? 5 days. Alrighty, moving on to supplemental request 2610 is Pulse Magazine with their supplemental request. The supplemental is $8,638.28.
So I'm showing you all the two slides, one for wages, one for off-campus printing and subscriptions, and then it comes to the total.
I'm going to ask a question of Gretchen. Is this for winter or fall printing? That one says fall. Is that a typo?
Yes, sorry, it's winter. Sure. Yes, there is a mistake on that slide. It is winter quarter.
I'm completely all for the wages. Maybe toning down a little bit on off-campus printing, just a little bit, but I am all for the wages.
Can I give this to Gretchen? Because I think Gretchen would like to explain, like she did last week, about why the printing cost is the printing cost.
Thank you. And also, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to give the presentation last week. So, but the printing cost, we went down to 60 pages from 80. That is the basic that we can do. And I would like to also comment that the students have expressed that they would rather print than be paid, if that is your deliberation. It is the opposite for Observer. But Pulse has expressed, since they only produce one publication a quarter, that they would rather print. That, of course, is up for you to deliberate.
I'm going to be real, y'all. The fact that they're willing to express that they'd rather print than be paid makes me want to pay them anyway.
Okay, good. I thought you were going to say something else. I was about to come in swinging. I was like, hold up.
No,
Okay.
actually, that expression changed my recommendation.
Okay. Yeah. I'm made it very known that I'm all for student media and all for Pulse. And again, I think Pulse has proved that they've done everything that they can to decrease the costs for S&A, which I greatly appreciate. And I definitely think that this should be approved, in my opinion.
Is there any further discussion? All right. Can I get a motion on the floor? Quidam?
Okay. I motion to approve the amount asked. Right. I motion to approve the full cost of. Did I say the amount? Sorry. Okay. I motion to approve the full amount of $8,638.28.
Motion seconded.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to our last item on the agenda for today, supplemental request 2611 for ASCWU student government. I would like to open the conversation by saying, as a brief thing, as I am both chair and the ASCWU representative, I will be a part of this conversation. However, your opinion does still matter. I will not steamroll you on whatever opinion you have. Okay? Alrighty. Any discussion first?
I'm gonna say this again. I'm all for students getting paid. So, yes. When it comes to the student salary increase.
Yes. So, this one's going to be a little less pleasant than the other ones were. I have not just a thought, I kind of have a case. I got some feelings about this one. I believe in paying for the salaries, of course. But the thing that gets me is this idea of paying. My understanding was the primary thing that they were going to use the funding for was a gala specifically. No? Do you know, or do you guys?
Can also, yeah.
Oh, yes. Hello, Hondo.
Yeah, let's have Hondo talk for me. Yeah, let's.
Hi, Bob. So let me help clear up some things here. So I apologize for the mishaps from last week's presentation. There was technological problems that was outside of my control, so I do apologize for that. I do want to make it very clear on our request. There is 2 priorities on here. The reimbursement for it is not one of them. So the reallocation of the 7,700, that is a priority of ours because that is a empty position in one office that is not going to be filled. And so that is one we want, since we have a staff member, another one that we want to continue with that staff member, that would get moved over there. But the 2, sorry, my vision is a little bad. The 2165 is not a priority of ours. If we do not get it, we are not going to have a whole uproar about it, truthfully speaking. The salary increases is just for our staff hours. So this quarter, because of the sudden transitions, the board was very stretched thin. This is going to help relieve. But if it would bring any kind of sense of relief, we don't need the 2165 if that does not pass. The priority is definitely the reallocation and the staff increase.
It would bring relief, thank you.
Yes, sorry, I apologize for not making that clear last week. There was a lot of things happening.
No, that was my misunderstanding, and the thing last week was messed up.
And then, yeah, just to clarify with the public comment, is the uniforms and the supplies for the Senate also included in this, or no?
There is no part to this presentation that is requesting what was addressed in the public comment. Those are items that have already been purchased out of this year's budget that was allocated. So when we got last year VP allocated parts of our already approved budget to take care of all those things. There is nothing in this request that is being used to purchase any of the items. I think that might have been another misconception, so I apologize. To also clear up what was said in the public comment, that is not included at all in this presentation. It's strictly just the staff hours and the reallocation for the empty position to another position.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Erin.
Hi. I just want to clarify, with some of the staff hours was kind of self-imposed on your office because you chose to extend the hours that you're open. Is that correct?
That is correct, because we started conversations in the beginning of the summer about moving the food recovery fridge out of our office, because we noticed that last year when I was in the office a lot later, students were coming in and out to obviously want food. That's their right? We want to make sure students have food. The problem was a lot of the conversations we had with the CERT team and with dining was there was not an ideal location to move it to because like we tried to move it outside the hallway and they told us like we can't do that. We tried moving it to other locations. They said we could not do that. We even recommended moving it downstairs. We even got told if we do that like in front of like the CMP by the microwave, it might make students uncomfortable. So our solution for that was to keep the office open later so students A had that accessibility, but also not everybody, for example, like in the Equity Services Council has key card access, and we have had this conversation, but because of a security risk, they don't want too many people having access to the office outside of normal business hours. So since a lot of events in winter and in spring quarter are done in the evenings, this also ensures that they have access to the office to be able to come and get their supplies out of the office. So that was a choice we made in order to take a look and make sure the office was more accessible, not only to the student body as a whole, but also to those that were participating and running things on campus.
So that kind of sounds like the S&A funding is going to be going to supplying access to storage. This supplemental funding is accessing storage?
That's part of what their hours are used for. It depends on what office it is. And so some of our hours depend on what the week looks like. So some of them are working on events during either hosting events or running events or collaborating on events support or other meetings. One of our goals, like I said, is to get out more because of this quarter. We struggled with that due to the sudden changes in recent events. Next quarter, this is to also send the teams out to with ourselves, do more outreach to the student body to also get more connected with them. That's a failure on our part this quarter. That is something we're trying to address. And the board of directors are very limited. We can try to be everywhere, but this also leaves some of that weight off of us as well. Also because of cost of living, so we want to make sure our students, can have the money that they need to, survive in this climate right now, especially.
I like that. I actually think that's great, having the office open for longer hours. I can't think of countless times, not just DSC orgs, but like students come in, either look at the fridge, or they literally come in and just do homework there, or they grab stuff in the back, or put stuff in the back. I think that's great.
Yeah, and like I said, we did in the beginning. This was our very first initiative we started during the summer, especially with the food recovery fridge. But when we had the conversations, it was a difficult. Oh my lord, something's happening here. We were not able to find an ideal location at this time for that food recovery fridge because again, if the office is not open but there's food in there, then students can't access that. So we wanted to address that and change that very quickly when we started the terms.
Perfect. And then you've kind of touched on this already, but do you have any specific goals or plans to use those extra hours for projects in ASU
Yes.
events specifically?
And I'm happy to share those. So our Director of Student Life and Facilities right now is collaborating with my office and my team. They are going to be bringing back what we used to be called Wellington Wednesdays, is where we used to table out with Wellington in the third quarter to engage with student body. That's coming back in the winter quarter. We're also going to be focusing on sending the board of directors out more into just interacting with the students to heavy organizations. So trying to interact with the clubs, organizations on campus to definitely get, like I said, out of the office. This quarter, it kind of forced us to be more in the office due to the climate of things that had occurred. So next quarter, we're completely 180 and going a different direction of getting back out into the student body. So we're already starting these conversations and trying to build that schedule to kind of match that. But again, the board of directors can do a lot, but even we're limited in the spaces and time that we have. So this is going to help alleviate and make sure we're doing our parts for the student body as their representatives.
Okay, thank you.
Real quick before I continue, I just want to say, sorry I didn't notice you when I saw you earlier. You didn't go the same direction as me, so I didn't think that you were going to be here.
I took the staircase.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. All right, I got two questions that are going to be a little harder on the spirit. So first I see that this $21,294, that's for the student salaries, right?
That's correct.
That's at $17.13.
That is at 1666.
Okay.
So, and that is because in the original presentation, we did show what it would look like for 1777, but this number is with the 1666. Or I believe that's the current minimum wage, right? It's 1666, 64?
Yeah, it goes. So, regardless, thank you for that clarification. That changes my next part of that just a little bit. Is this for student salary for you guys for the rest of the year, or is this just next quarter?
This is winter and spring.
Okay.
Because we were trying to exceptionally limit the number of presentations. So for historical context, ASCU has come back, S&A 2-3 times in the past. This year, this board did not want to do that. We wanted to absolutely limit the number of times that we came requesting S&A funds. So like I said, when we built this presentation, we cut this down as much as we feasibly could.
I like that.
The only time you'll see us in winter is when we have to reallocate numbers to a different budget, and that's because we have to per S&A policy.
Well answered. Do you have a rough estimate of how many students you have on salary?
So the only members that are on salary that's being requested is the 13 staff members. So Senate, they are staying at 5 hours. That's just what their system is in the budgets. The board members are not on this number as either. So this is not increased like mine or the VPs or student lives. This is just the staff that we have on our teams.
This is not bad. Okay. The last thing. This one's so there was some bad stuff that happened this semester with the that came out of the ASCWU. Would any of the positions that are being hired for, is there any of this money that is going to go towards preventing more scandals like the ones that y'all had to handle earlier this year?
This is a really great question. Thank you for asking this, Ba. So because of the situation that occurred, that did occur with one of our directors who is no longer present in ASCWU, 99% positive they will never return to ASCWU as far as we are concerned. With this hours, we have held internal discussions of what systems need to be put in place that have not been in place before. So this includes conversations of our advisor being able to put somebody on leave, which they don't have the power to now, changing that so where they could do that. This is also going to allow us to meet with the staff at the very beginning of the quarter and everybody and say reset these expectations, but also make it clear that we need to deal with these and the advisor needs to. Part of the problem was that there was Title IX investigations kind of involved, so there wasn't legally nothing we could do in that moment until the student chose to resign of their own accord. So we are taking steps right now to meet with the staff to kind of reset this, but also we've had conversations with our advisors on resetting the expectations on us board members as well. So to kind of answer your question, it's giving us a little bit more breathing room to make sure we have these. If we don't get it, we're going to adapt and try to figure out the best way to keep making forward. But like I said, we're trying to prevent everything we can to prevent that incident from occurring again.
I do have a concern as chair of the S&A committee. As stated already by Aaron, there is a concern that these hours are only going to go into keeping the office open from, 5 to 10 extra hours. You've stated the events that you're going to plan. You've stated, the benefit that it has for students for keeping the office open. I guess my question is, what is the value and the intrinsic cost to value ratio of having these extra hours for your staff if it's going to primarily be used for keeping the office open for storage?
So this is a really great question. Thank you for this. So like I said, it depends on what staff members are doing what. So some of the staff members are focusing on the receptionist aspect of it and then keeping the office open. Yes, that is for food security and accessibility to the office when it comes time for events in the evenings or so students can have access to the food that are in our food recovery fridge. The other half of this as well is during the day-to-day operations, so we can also expand our capabilities to be more active on the campus, and we cannot ask our staff to work unpaid hours to do initiatives like that. That is not fair on our staff. Us board members are a little bit different because of how our system is set up, but for our staff members, that's not an expectation we would ever set with our staff. So this gives them, they said, not just in the evening, but also in day-to-day operations. In terms of the value of it, like I said, this is to help those staff members have that extra without having to work 2-3 jobs on campus. There's not a whole lot of jobs on campus that are actively hiring right now that offer more hours. So we have seen some of our staff members that have struggled with having an on-campus job and an off-campus job, for example, that has made it difficult for them to do their parts within student government because of the restricted lower hours that we can offer at this time. So this is a couple different avenues, but again, this is what it kind of looks like in a day-to-day operation for us. I hope that answers your question. If not, I misunderstood the question. I apologize.
My only other concern, the amount of money requested here, regardless if it's for, I know the numbers for 1713 minimum wage. I also know the numbers of the amount of staffing and the payroll it takes to keep the office open from 5 to 10 every single day. And the totals come out to roughly the same of what you're requesting. My question is, if the totals are coming out to the same of keeping the office open, how are you going to use this funds to properly interact with the student body if they're roughly the same amount?
So a good example of this is our director for student life and facilities in the Wellington team, for example, right? Wellington is not always requested every single week, right? Because there may not be events where Wellington is requested every single week. Those are hours that the staff can either be out in the student body or, working on the desk and keeping the office open. It kind of just really just depends on what this is going to look like. Now, like for example, my team, this would give them the opportunity to be more active, but again, we build it week by week and we adapt. There is also there's also the board members that can also fill in the gaps with the hours. So for example, if we have staff members that can't work in the evenings but work in the day-to-day operations, us board members can sit in and be there in the office in the evenings depending on the board members. Like me, I'm usually in the office in the evenings helping fill in those gaps to make sure that the office can stay open. So that's another way we have adapted in looking at it, like, okay, if we need the staff here during this time or this event, then us board members can fill in the gaps. We have a little bit more freedom than necessarily our staff do. I hope that answers your question. There was another hand up.
Before we go over to Abby, we will need to extend the meeting by another 5 to 10 minutes. One thing before we go to Abby, we will have to extend the meeting by another 5 to 10 minutes. Do I have a motion on the floor?
I move to extend this meeting by 10 minutes.
I second.
Alrighty. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. Vote passes unanimously. And moving on, Abby, you had a question.
I have a little bit of a hypothetical question for the future. So, the reason why you wanted to keep the office open from 5 to 10 was so that students could access the fridge. Those who need the food in the fridge or the storage, they could access it, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Hypothetically, if in the future you find a suitable location where you can move the fridge to, would you still keep the office open from 5 to 10? And if not, would the dollar amount go back to the original amount?
So that's a really great question. That is a conversation I have actually had with our advisor. If, for example, we are able to find a suitable location for the fridge, which is something we would still are actively trying to find out right now, we would basically still keep the office open because, like I said, there are still things, especially in winter and spring quarter, when there are a lot of events happening especially in the evenings. If you look at the hype booklet, they're the most full out of the quarters. So we would still keep the office open. However, at least for this year, this is a board's priority. If later, let's say 2-3 years down the line, and a board said no, we don't need to, that's kind of up to that individual board. So this is the strategy for this year's board of directors to try and hopefully continue this for next couple years. If not, that comes up to an individual board's discretion. I hope that answers your question, Abby.
It does. Thank you so much.
And I have one last question.
Okay.
If you were not to get the full allotted amount for student salaries, what will you do with the reduced amount of money?
I think we're gonna we're gonna have to adapt. That's just how our strategy has been this year, has been to figure out the next steps. I think from there, what we're gonna do is I think we would speed up the process of trying to move the fridge to another location. It's been one of the items of our focus, but if we need to kind of speed that process up, then we can definitely speed that process up. So if not, like I said, our priority at the end of the day is student outreach and student engagement. That's what our job is. That's what we were elected to do. That's still gonna always be our priority. It just means that we will have to speed up some other projects to ensure, like I said, for at least the food accessibility that's accessible to the student body. So if we need to speed that up, we can. And then we'll just focus on student outreach and engagement. If it means that board members need to be in the office to ensure that students have access, like for evening events, then that is a conversation that the board of directors can have and kind of internalized. I hope that answers your question.
I have one more. Have you talked to Cherie's team about the fridge?
Yes, like I said, one of the conversations we had was we thought about, well, one, we define it with an outlet, for example. We've also had conversations with the Wildcat Pantry. Based off our conversations with Cherie's team, there wasn't a whole lot of options in the immediate, and then with the Wildcat Pantry, we're still working on that with them, so it's still an active conversation going right now. Because to kind of also point to something Bob had said earlier, because of the very sudden events that happened within CWU, it's been a back burner project for us. Hopefully, with that now passing, we can go back to refocusing on that project and student engagement and outreach.
Just kind of looking down the road, I know for a fact that, never mind, I wouldn't say for a fact, I have an idea that the MCC will probably be good next quarter, maybe probably, in terms of storage. So I know that at least for the future's sake, this budget, I mean, might work perfectly great this year, for example. And maybe in the future might something else, because I mean that backlog is kind of a mess. But I mean the MCC the storage there will be good hopefully. So then that will help clear that up a little bit more.
And that is part of our conversations too, which has been great.
And then also another thing too that I think would kind of unrelated but related. The walk-in area is great, but I think to really if you're gonna have longer hours, I think kind of revamping that and adding more like things there for students to use would be really nice because the computers there are great, but that little like coffee little thing areas I think has really good potential.
So one thing I want to also point out to kind of also add some context. So right now the ASCW office is being used as a storage space for the Multicultural Center and the orgs. That is because if you guys have seen parts of Black Hall, it is still under construction right now, at least the areas that they need to access for a storage. That's why we are acting as a storage space for them. At least hopefully until January. They told us mid-January is when it should be fully open now. Once that happens, our goal is then to move all of that stuff out, which means at that point the last remaining thing we're just keeping the office open later in the evenings is the fridge, and that is still something we're going to actively still try to find more accessibility ways to open. From there, because I can imagine the question is like, well, then what would the hours be used for? I can already see that question being lingered. That is where then we will reprioritize again day-to-day operations with the staff and also being present on the campus. So there is a multi-step process to what this looks like, because we kind of, like I said, we adapt and we figure out what the next steps are based on what our situation may occur. So I hope that also clears up that question later down the line, because if that is no longer a storage space and the fridge is now out, then we won't keep the office open as longer, which means there'll be hours in the day-to-day operations, focusing at the events, and then focusing on being more present on the campus and connecting with the student body.
All right, thank you again. I don't know if anyone else has any questions, just to make my point known, I think that the ASU has shown that they're going to be able to allocate this funding well and help progress, especially with all the events and what it takes to run CW, things like that. My suggestion is that we approve this funding for the next 2 quarters, and then once they come back for the fiscal year of 2026-2027, maybe just see how they've used that funding.
Just real quick, there's also the reallocation request that's a part of this as well.
Right.
Just to add that, sorry.
Does anyone have anything to say about that?
I'm inclined to agree that we approve the funding with caveats. So one, I heard them say that they can live without the reimbursement request. So that sounds like it's a good way to save a little bit when we're about to spend a third of what we have left. That one I'm going to vote against approving. So thus, my personal recommendation would be to approve the student salary increase, but at a 90% of what they requested, for a total of $19,164.60, with a recommendation that they keep the office open for 1 hour instead of 2, and use that time to make headway in another direction that will help with the recovery from last semester. As for the reallocation request, my personal stance on that is full approval.
Just want to ask real quick, I'm so sorry. For robbing Aaron, I don't think I've ever heard a motion in that caliber before.
So technically, you can make a recommendation on an amount, but you cannot tell them, we already have parameters on how they can spend it. So you can say, I will fund you 90% for student salaries, and then they need to adjust, but we don't usually tell them how they can spend it. Like, you can only do 1 hour instead of 2, or.
So even for a recommendation?
Correct.
But I will take that into consideration, though, for future information, so I will do that.
I will remember that.
I just want to make sure that you guys all kind of understand this one. If the 7,700 is already allocated, so that's not going to be coming out of your supplemental budget because it's already been allocated. So it will be like a minus to this one and a plus to that one. So the impact to this request on the supplemental budget will be whatever portion of the top portion. And that bottom portion is not an impact to your supplemental budget.
To clarify, the minimum wage increase has already been budgeted out, so we don't have to include that in this because it is for 1613 requested here. The pay increase will already be budgeted out ahead of time, so that doesn't need to be.
Well, we'll make a presentation and do a supplemental funding request to cover all the minimum wages of students that are going up. So it's not necessarily already done because we'll have to come to this body and determine that. But yes.
And one last thing before I open up the floor again. Bob, what was the number of the 90%?
Yes, the 90% number is $19,164.60.
Awesome. $19,164.60, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Cordon?
What does the committee think of just making it flat of just 19,000? Just
I don't have any. I'm not picking a fight over it.
okay. Great.
Question for ACWU.
Hi.
If we were to do that, to give you just 19,000, how would that affect the hours of the staff that you were planning to pay?
So, two different ways, just because we caught this after the S&A presentation, so we apologize. So normally, each of the amounts of the budget for the staff salaries would go to the individual directors, with the exception of the staff that is basically overseen by the president and the VP. We do not have an individual budget. So we would actually have to come back. We have to come back anyway in winter to request to go to the separate budgets anyway. So this actually helps us figure out like what staff needs the extra hours as much as feasibly possible without the direct looking at the presentation to see what each office requested in that specific amount. I don't have an answer for you in this precise moment because I would need to take a look at it and say, okay, this is what this office requested, how can we make this work with this amount? If that answers your question, I just don't have that answer right in front of me in this precise moment in time. But we would just have to, again, adapt and figure out the next steps best forward. That's kind of the best way we've been able to do AC with this year.
Well, I open up the floor for any motions.
I motion to approve 19,000 for the student salary increase. And obviously the reallocation request is already money that's reallocated. So obviously approve that.
Okay. Can I get a second for the 19,000?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Vote passes unanimously. All right. Can I get a second motion for the reallocation request?
Motion to approve the full reallocation request for $7,700.
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. Vote passes unanimously. Alrighty. With all that, I am going to go back to our agenda that I accidentally deleted. Awesome. Okay, I should just look up here. All right. Second call for public comment.
I would just like to make one if I could. Since Lola's in the room too, something per Bob's recommendation, it might be if you all plan to extend your hours in a permanent process, your base funding request is due Monday. So this would be a great opportunity to ask for more student funding if you plan on making this a semi-permanent or permanent request in the coming fiscal years.
I'd like to make a public comment. First of all, I want to really recognize you all for your great discussion this week. It's really impressive to see you going through, or we're not at public comment?
No, can I get a motion to extend the meeting by 5 minutes?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Alex Cordone motions. Can I get a second? Boss seconds. Okay, all who want it, raise your hand.
Thank you for
Motion passes unanimously.
So you guys did a great job of having a great discussion, and it was very thoughtful. You all did a really, really, really great job. So I want to commend you for that. A great job on your classes. I hope that your finals all went well. And I hope you have an awesome break. Anyone else?
Hey, Hondo. Yo, today was not easy on you, and you did great. Serious.
This is not my first rodeo.
Clearly inspirational.
So I was going to ask, we need to do a motion to accept or unapprove the other asked amount for the 2,000?
No, because
That was just for the.
that was included in the supplemental ask. It was
In the
just
total.
separated on the budget sheet. So you guys approved a flat 19,000
That
and
makes
the
sense.
and the reallocation. Well, with that, my last public comment to our old members and our new members, you guys are doing an amazing job. Rachel, you are a pivotal person. Your voice is incredibly important on this committee, and I could not imagine it without you. Cordone, you are one of the most loyal and student-focused people that I know, and I can't even put it to words. Austin, you're new to this committee, but I've worked with you several times outside of here. I know you do amazing work, and I know you're going to do great here. Ba, you're my vice chair, and I'm so happy I would have anybody else there. You are, yeah, all righty. Abby, I've seen you at Lobby Day. I've seen you at Committee Day. I hope to see you at Lobby Day. You are an amazing note taker, and you ask the most important questions in the room, and I'm really excited to work with all of you more next year. Alrighty. And to our amazing advisors, thank you so much for putting up with everything behind the scenes this semester. I know it could not have been easy, Robbie. I know it could not have been easy with the transition, Aaron. I really do appreciate, and I'm happy that I'm working alongside you too as the chair. Alrighty.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, folks. Happy non-denominational holidays. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn the meeting at 4:14 p.m.
I second that.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes unanimously. We get to go home.
I have to go to work.
I am going to Yakima.